Have you ever wondered why you seem to do the right things? You do your research, you've read articles about what content is working, what formats, what style, what presentation, and you go off and you do the same thing. And you've done your research, you've seen what your competitors are doing, you've seen the content that's killing it, that's popping, that's doing it. And for whatever reason, as soon as you hit the publish button, you have that sense of deflation. You've done a lot of work, you've published the content, and now you don't know what happens next. Where are you going to get the views from? Where are you going to get the traffic from? Where are you going to get the engagement, the likes, the loves? Where are you going to get the attention from? And as each day passes, you get more and more deflated because you're starting to realize, actually, I've done all this work. It might have taken you days, weeks, months to create fantastic content, strategy, you had meetings with people, and you're not getting as much attention as you thought you would. And it's always confusing sometimes. You're constantly working hard to create content that you know and it's supposed to get attention because it's very useful, it's very helpful, it's very well done. You've put budgets, time, resources behind it. But for whatever reason, it's not hitting the mark as expected to be. Usually, you tend to get engagement, you tend to get views and readers from people who already follow you, people who already know what your content is about, who already know about your brand. But with marketing, it's a bit like campaigning to be the president of the United States. You don't really campaign to people already going to vote for you. You're trying to reach out to people who are neutrals, people who haven't made a decision whether to go Democrat or Republican. This is where you win the votes. This is where it determines who becomes the ultimate winner. One thing I should say, whenever we tend to take courses, online workshops or class courses face-to-face, most courses leave you in a situation where you think, I've done all right, I just have to do a bit more things, so a few more tweaks. So it's almost like most courses are a pat on the back, that you're doing okay, you're doing good, you just have to tweak a few things here and there. You don't walk away and think, like, I need to stop what I'm doing, all right? Or how on earth have I been doing this? I would rather have you either completely give up, which is like odd, like why would I want you to do that? But I'd rather give up the way you're doing digital marketing, or the way you're doing content marketing, or the way you're doing SEO. Or on the other side of the scale, I want you to feel hopeless, but hopeless to the point where you now have to rethink and redo and come up with a new strategy that will give you success. And the reason why I'm saying this is because, again, I go back to the US elections. They ask you the question, and you have to be able to answer this question honestly with yourself. What are my chances of winning? I know I might have the budget, I might have the backers, I might have, but really and truly, before you run for the presidency, you need to ask yourself that question. What are my chances of winning? And in as much as we've been creating content, we've been doing all sorts of stuff with digital marketing, we don't really tend to ask ourselves the question, what are your chances of succeeding with what you're doing in digital marketing? If you're going to create content, whether it's an ad or just for SEO or just content marketing, what are the chances that that piece of content is going to get the attention that it deserves or it needs to be of business value? We don't ask that question. And then we get surprised when we create content, when we do digital marketing and don't get the results that we want. Most of your digital marketing is not working. It's not because I'm just guessing, I'm just saying it out of arrogance, or I've seen and I've peeked at your analytics reports. No, it's because I've discovered that there are powerful forces that are on the internet, out there, invisible, but there, that are busy starving your content of attention. I don't know about you, but from my previous experience, setting up blogs, writing articles, creating content, whether ads or just content, in the SEO world, they've become so skeptical that they think there is a conspiracy. And the conspiracy goes like so, that if you set up a new blog or new website, and you create content, no matter how good it is, they believe in the SEO world that this content, Google will know about it, but they will place your site and content in a sandbox, meaning that they're not going to show it to the world for a good 6 months because they want to see if it's that good and people are looking for it, which I find very interesting, but it's a conspiracy. Why? It's born out of the fact that we don't have an idea why our content is not getting the attention we think it deserves. You get the same thing with PPC when you pay for adverts. When you're not getting the clicks, when you're not getting the conversions, you become skeptical. Maybe it's click fraud. Maybe all these are just random bots and AI that's just clicking on your ads, costing you money, but you don't get the sales. So whenever we don't find success, we've tended to allow other conspiracies to come in because it's a way of making us feel like, okay, at least there's something happening. It's not entirely my fault, but it's really just because we don't actually know what's really happening. And the smart marketers, they have an idea. Some think, okay, it's probably to do with an algorithm somewhere that's affecting me. So let me outsmart the algorithm. The people who spend their time trying to outsmart the Facebook algorithm, the Google algorithm, they will study it, trying to understand the ranking factors and all sorts of stuff. But it is not sustainable. It makes you smarter. It gives you first mover advantage. Good for you. But at some stage, that algorithm will keep changing. And if you don't keep up, you're going to be pretty much back in the same place as the rest of us. So I have to stress this again. Digital marketing is really using content to get attention so that you can promote your products or services. So I don't care whether you do email marketing. I don't care whether you do ads. I don't care whether you do SEO. I don't care whether you do chatbot marketing. I don't care whether you do Facebook ads, Instagram ads. Whatever digital marketing you're doing, you have to have content. People don't think of it this way. I mean, when you pay for ads, when you do PPC, for example, you have to create a little tiny piece of content. That could be an image, that could be a video, a short video. Then you place it on a platform like Facebook or Google. Then you have to link it back to another piece of content, which is most probably your product or your service or your blog post or something interesting of value. And then hopefully when they click on that link, they get taken to this content and hopefully they actually get something from it, but at the same time, they exchange something of value with you. That could be money, that could be their email address, that could be their contact details, anything that is of value to both of you. There's an exchange that takes place. So even ads, they're part of content marketing. You are paying for the click to a piece of content. SEO, you still have to do content marketing. You create content, but instead of paying for clicks to links to your content, you are relying on getting free clicks to those links that lead to your content. Very small distinction, but very important. With SEO, you're not going to pay for every click that you get to your content. With PPC or with ads, like Google, like Facebook, you do pay for that. And I think throughout the course I've been stressing, content is not king. You don't create content for the sake of creating content. In fact, let me put it this way. If you create content and you have zero attention, and I don't even bother creating content, we are both in the same shoes. We are both facing the same problem. The difference being, you've wasted your time and money to create that content, but you're not getting attention. If your content is not getting attention, you are just in the same boat as someone who hasn't even created any piece of content whatsoever, because both of you have no attention. So, attention is key. Whatever you do with digital marketing, you are doing it to get attention. That's why we create videos, we write books, we have music videos, we have films, we have all sorts of content that we create because we want to get attention first. Before we sell a product, before we sell our services, before we exchange something of value with the people on the internet. So now that you know that, I don't really have to keep hammering the point that content is not king. We now know this. So if I'm saying content is not king, then what then is the best explanation for why your content marketing is not working? Because we're doing it and we are seeing some results, some engagement, but we're also seeing no attention, no engagement with some content. It's half and half in most cases. Very rarely that you have a digital marketing plan or content marketing plan where everything is working and you're getting results and you're exceeding expectations. There are some out there who understand what's actually happening, why their content marketing is not working. And your content marketing is not working not because of the skills you're lacking. Most digital marketers are highly skilled. They know about digital marketing. They know the theories, the case studies. They've gone through the stats. They've gone through the trends. They've got the tools. That is not what's affecting your digital marketing, especially content marketing. What's really stopping your digital marketing from being a success is there are 5 forces. There might be more, and I'm open to researching and understanding this. But I was mind blown when I realized, this is why my content never really hits the mark. This is why my content never gets attention. There are powerful forces out there that are just waiting to pounce on your content before it gets anywhere and starve you of the attention that your content needs and deserves to be of value. And these forces are ruthless. They could not care about your business goals. They could not care about your ambition, your mission, your story, why you're doing it. They could not care. They are forces, and it is in their interest to crush your content. It is in their interest to crush the attention that you should be getting, because they literally are just that powerful. When we go through these forces, some of you are gonna give up. You're gonna give up and say, well, then I'm wasting my time because clearly I can't beat these forces. To me, that's a result, because I've at least stopped you from wasting time and money creating content that was never gonna have a chance anyway. I want you to understand that very carefully. If I can stop you from wasting any more money on content or digital marketing, that is a result for me. Okay? That makes this course even worth it for me. Because there are marketing managers, marketing directors, SVP of marketing, CMOs who have a big multi-million-dollar budget and they're about to fire the trigger on digital marketing, not realizing that there's absolutely no chance of them succeeding because of the forces. This problem of not knowing what's affecting your ability to succeed is nothing new. If you look at the business world, for a long time, companies didn't really quite understand what was it that was affecting the ability to make profits. You're competing, you know your competition, company A, I'm company B, we have the same products, we charge almost the same price, but how come they can have more profit than us when we're doing the same things? So prior to 1979, most businesses just thought, well, if we're not as profitable as they are, our competition, then it's probably just bad luck or coincidence. And if we are profitable, then we've done better than our competition. So competition then was viewed as something very narrow and something quite pessimistic. It wasn't seen as something good to help you come up with a better strategy or to push you to think outside the box. It was mostly just, well, we're competing, it's a game. If you do well, it was just good luck, right? It was just a coincidence. Then Michael Porter came along and he had made some observations and he was like, it's not just competition. There is other forces at play that affect your ability to make profits. That's what made his paper in the Harvard Business Review, How Competitive Forces Shape Strategy. That's what made it one of the most popular papers and still is today. And that's what gave birth to the Porter's 5 forces. It's a model. I'm sure if you Google up, you will see images of the model. And in business schools, you learn about the Porter's five forces. And in business schools, whether you go to Harvard, London Business School, INSEAD, you learn about Porter's five forces. Because it was a way to help business leaders understand the forces in any given industry that could eat away their profits. So before you made the decision as a business to say, let's expand into Asia, let's go into India, let's expand into this industry, you had to understand the forces that are working against you in that industry. Because if you understood them very well, you'd have to make a decision whether to go in with a strategy, with a plan of success, or to back away. Sink or swim. And as I said earlier in the course, I would rather you look at the five forces and think, no, we can't do this, we can't compete. We need to stop doing what we're doing. Or, for us to compete, we are going to have to change a lot of things and do them differently. That's where I want the course to leave you. I don't want you to walk away from this module especially and think, we're doing okay. But the five forces, I think, are a very good way of capturing what we've long suspected, that there is something out there that's just not allowing us to enjoy the success that we think we deserve and we've worked hard for as marketers. So the reason why I talk about Porter's five forces is because he then came along and exposed the other forces that were eating away people's profits. Because a lot of business owners, a lot of businesses assumed that it was just bad luck. It was just a coincidence. It was just maybe my competitor driving down his prices. They had a very narrow view of what was affecting the profitability of their businesses until Porter came along. So very briefly, I'm going to go through Porter's five forces because I think it will get you in the right frame of mind for when I talk to you about Simba's five forces. Very weird talking about myself in third person, but there you go. Porter's five forces is saying these are the five things or forces that if you don't deal with them, they will eat away all your profits and leave you in losses. And those five forces are existing competition. You're never going to go into any industry without any competition there. In fact, if there is no competition, probably that industry is not attractive enough for people to be competing in. That's usually the case. So one of the forces exists in competition. The second force is the threat of new entrants. So as long as an industry starts to grow, there's a lot of profits around, it's going to attract other people who are looking at that industry with envy. Like, wow, look at that industry, they're making so much profit. And a very good example of this was Samsung. Samsung were very much making TVs and fridges, but mobile phone industry looked very attractive. So much profits. Apple was literally killing it. So they decided to enter the industry. So that's a powerful force because you could be thinking, oh, we're competing with just 2 or 3 companies, but because your industry is so attractive to others, it will actually attract other people to coming in. The third force is the power of suppliers. So in every industry, there is a place where you go to get your supplies, your raw materials, the things that you need to make your products or services. And if you don't have many suppliers, you don't have much bargaining power. You don't have much negotiation power. Where do you go? If you don't agree with their pricing, where else can you go? So Porter was saying, look, if your suppliers are very powerful, it means they can charge up higher prices that eat into your profits. A very classic example of this is in the airline industry. If you want to buy an airline or start an airline, there's only 2 people who can supply you with aeroplanes. That is Boeing and Airbus. If you don't like both of them, you are not going to have an airline. Let's just put it that way. Do you understand? This is a powerful force. So you might be able to go into a new industry, compete. You might be able to stop others getting into the industry, the threat of new entrants. But if your suppliers are very few and they have more power, that could still eat into your profits. You see how this model from Porter opens up your mind to, these are the forces I have to deal with. Let's move along. The fourth force is the power of customers. Customers have choice. You might be operating in an industry where the customers have so much choice, they don't have to be loyal to your product, to your brand, to your service. They don't have to pay attention to you. So if your customers are many, but they have so much choice, they have more power than you. They can drive down your prices. But if customers don't have much choice, you can charge higher prices. for your product, or for your service. This is a very powerful force, once again. The fifth and final force is threat of substitute products. This is when, for example, you have an airline and you do flights to France from England. However, there's alternative ways of getting to France without getting on an airplane. You could drive to France through the tunnel, you could get on the train, the Euro tunnel, you could get a ferry. There are different ways of getting to France without using an airline. So when we talk about the powerful force of the threat of substitutes, what we're saying is, even though you're operating in an industry and you think your product is the best, your customers can actually choose alternative ways of achieving the same thing, same result, but using alternative products and services. And because there are alternatives, it pretty much can affect the way you do your pricing. Airlines can't just jack up their prices. Why? Because there are other alternative methods of traveling that we can take if push comes to shove. So this is what you had with Porter's 5 forces. It suddenly just opened up people's minds, especially business owners, business leaders, people who have to come up with strategy. Suddenly, that explains why we're not being profitable this year. Because our suppliers are very strong, they hacked up the prices and we couldn't go elsewhere. When we changed our prices, we noticed our customers stopped using our products. Why? Because they had an alternative product. That's the threat of substitute products. When we went into the industry, we didn't expect our competitors to lower their prices that much because we can't compete at that level. Well, they had economies of scale. So even though you went into a new industry, they were prepared to respond in case you come in. So do you see how these forces suddenly make sense to why you are not making as much profit as you expected? Because there are things out there, invisible they may be, eating away your profits. So the Porter's 5 forces, really the essence of the model was to ask yourself the question, we are entering this industry, we want to operate in this industry, we're running our business in this industry, but what are our chances of making a good profit? Because ultimately businesses strive, work hard for making profits. You can give them back to your shareholders, you can then do more things and grow your business. It's all about profit. So the model was saying, well, before you make that decision, just understand these are the 5 things that are working against you, and you're going to have to do something about it if you're going to go into the industry. So you can see why I was attracted to this model, because I studied this model. You can see why I was attracted to this model. I wasn't attracted to just the theory of the model, but what the model was trying to achieve. That is the power of the model. That is why it's lasted 30 years. It is not because it's perfect. It's not because that's the last ever model you should use when you're doing business strategy, but because it is trying to help with a real need, to answer the question, should we be going into this industry? Should we be investing in this industry? Should we be going out there to recruit people so that we can attack this industry? Is it the right time to go into this industry? What are the chances that we will succeed? Because in anything that we do, whether it's digital marketing, whether it's political campaign, whether it's business, relationships, whatever we're going to do, the ultimate question really is, what are the chances that this will work? What are the chances that this will succeed?
I got excited because suddenly I knew I could use Porter's 5 forces, repurpose it, adapt it to be able to help marketers all around the world. That's what excited me the most. The fact that now suddenly we could have a tool, a model, a framework that helps us answer the question, as we do digital marketing, what are the chances that we will succeed? What are the chances that our content will get the attention it deserves? What are the chances that our advertising will actually work? Because when you know the 5 forces that are working against your success, you can then do something about it, or not waste your time doing something when you know the result that's going to happen. That is what excited me the most about this model. And I have to give thanks to Michael Porter because he obviously put in a lot of work, a lot of research, so that he can show business owners and leaders these are the things that affect your ability to make profits in this industry. And I'm coming along, jumping on Michael Porter's giant shoulders and saying, you've done all the hard work, and I'm going to borrow this and repurpose it to help my fellow marketers, my fellow entrepreneurs, my fellow affiliate marketers, my fellow startup businesses that are wondering, before we start spending money on digital marketing, what are the chances that we will succeed? And I've identified 5 forces that are working day and night to kill off any chance of success you will have. And what are they? So Simbas 5 forces, I'll give you an overview, then I'll explain them as we go along. We have existing competition for attention. Before you create content for any given topic or niche or industry, if you want to go that far, there is already companies, individuals who are creating content that gets those people's attention. There's already existing competition. Never ever hit the publish button and just think you are the only one creating content for a particular topic for a particular person. If you think you are creating content where there is no competition, that's most likely, 9 out of 10, is most likely that topic, that niche, that industry no longer has any attention worthy for anyone to create content for. Let me say that again. Usually, if you find yourself creating content and you don't find any other company, any other individual creating content for that topic, it usually means that topic is dead and buried, no longer has an attention. For example, there is no more point of creating content about fidget spinners. They hit their peak 4 years ago when everyone was interested in fidget spinners. People creating content for fidget spinners. Now, dead and buried and forgotten. You deciding to write content for fidget spinners because you love them or you miss them, you're not going to get as much attention as you think you would. Even though there is no one else creating content for fidget spinners. You might be the only one who produces an article today or a video about fidget spinners. And you might get a few views here and there. But apart from that, you are not going to get any success whatsoever, and you won't understand why. Because there is no competition. There is no attention there. There's a force working against you already that you ignored, either because you didn't know or you just made assumptions. So that's one of the first forces, existing competition for attention. Always be aware before you hit the publish button, before you create content, before you create ads, because ads are just tiny pieces of content. Any content you produce, just know there is someone else producing content that's getting the attention right now than yours. So just because you create content doesn't mean you're going to get attention. It means you have to displace them first to get attention. The second force, the threat of new content. With any given topic or niche, the moment it becomes interesting and starts to get attention, I will bet you every single dollar that I have that there will be new content being created for that topic niche almost every second. This is the way of the internet. Anything popular, anything interesting, if there's a lot of attention on that topic, on that niche, whatever it may be, best believe everyone else is going to start creating content because they're also fighting for attention, just like you. So never ever make the mistake of assuming that just because you're creating content in a very hot topic that's trending, that's popular, that no one else is going to come and take away a piece of the pie. That attention pie is going to have to be now divided amongst so many other people who are very hungry to eat everything. So you might be writing content for a topic or niche that's probably fine, getting attention, but as soon as it becomes popular, as soon as someone else sees the attention that topic gets, they're going to start writing for it as well. And they have money, they have resources to throw everything at it and to take away all the attention you require or need. for your business to survive. And a very good example of this, you see that with COVID-19. You go and try creating new content now for COVID-19. Good luck with that. You're not going to go anywhere. News channel, brands, companies, they are creating content left, right, center to attack this topic because there's a lot of attention. Every day you wake up, attention to COVID-19. Rightly so, but that attention now is having to be split amongst a lot more people than normal. Imagine there was probably some expert scientist somewhere who was writing a blog about COVID and he was getting some attention, but because the topic became very popular, guess what? New content just flooded in and took over the place. And now, barely anyone will notice his content. Why? Because of the threat of new content. It's a very powerful force. You might be creating content now for topics that are trending and popular, and you're discounting the fact that someone else is going to create content that will come in and divide up the attention you should be getting. So you're all going to be left with a little bit of attention, but not as much as you would like. Third force, the threat of substitute content. Now this I find very interesting. On illustration, it will make the point beautifully. Let's say you decide to write a travel guide to South Africa for the safari, and you produce this travel guide, 10,000 words, beautiful, full of pictures, information about the weather, about the people, the places you can go to, the prices. It's fantastic, well researched. You've even got someone from South Africa, someone actually traveled, and they've done all the research, gave you all this information, and it's a travel guide. Now, in theory, you're going to assume that, well, this is very comprehensive. I've followed all the guidelines and rules and case studies I've read, because a lot of case studies say, well, if you're going to write content, it has to be in depth, has to be well researched, and apply SEO principles and everything else. And you do that. You create the article, you publish the article, you spend some money, spend some time, and you're expecting it to work, and it doesn't. Then you look around. Who else is doing travel guides to South Africa? You've done your research. Your competitors had done some travel guides, but they were not as extensive, they were not as interesting as your travel guide, and not as long as your travel guide. However, you look around and yours is not popular. You barely get the people reading it, you barely get comments. You've shared it on your internet, you've shared it on your Facebook, you've shared it on Twitter, you've shared it on a few places. You get a few likes from people who always like your stuff, maybe they're bots, who knows. You get some responses, but not many. So why is it not working after all that effort? That is because of the force of the threat of substitute content. And when we say substitute, is because most likely someone out there, savvy, has looked at your travel guide, loved it, liked it, and decided they're gonna make a video travel guide to South Africa. And they put it on YouTube, and guess what? Because people prefer to watch videos, and this person is interesting, has got a different style of presentation, gets all the views. He or she didn't have to do the research. He or she didn't have to spend all that money. He or she didn't have to fly to South Africa to get all the details. But now, they've created a video that's popular and on the trending page. And no one pays a single dime of attention to your content, yet you've done all the work. I am seeing this phenomena across the web. It's even interesting because even on TikTok, this happens a lot. So on TikTok, I know for some it's a guilty pleasure. You're not going to admit that you use TikTok. On TikTok, you can create a video for a minute and post it. And if you're lucky, it might go into the For You page. The For You page is like the equivalent of a Facebook newsfeed. However, on TikTok, what makes it different is that someone else can download or take your audio, lip sync to it, and change the style and upload it to TikTok. How do I mean by this? If I create a video today and I talk about digital marketing, someone else can take the same video and they can reenact that video and lip sync to my audio and post it on TikTok. Now, why am I saying this to you? Remember, we're talking about the force, the threat of substitute content. So on TikTok, there is a guy I follow, very funny. His name is Jake How Does It. He did a video, very popular, very funny video. And he got 1 million views. Brilliant, right? However, there is the force that's here to take away attention from you. Another guy, who's also very talented, by the way, in his own right, he comes along, likes the video, takes it, keeps the audio, but reenacts the video to make it more interesting. He changed the style of acting in the video. Same audio. And he got 5 million views. Now everyone was jumping on his comment section saying, whoa, why is this more popular? Which is the question most of us ask, right? As marketers and as business owners and as entrepreneurs. We ask the same question. How come I was the original creator of this content, but how come this person pretty much does the same thing and even copies me, but they have substantial success? I should also make the point here that these forces, when they're working against your content or your digital marketing, unlike Porter's 5 forces where it's just one force that you're up against, in the digital marketing world, these forces combine. So in this example that I've just given you, J. Cow had the unfortunate thing that the two forces combined. The force of the threat of substitute content because the guy changed his style and he got more attention, but at the same time, the force which I'll discuss later on is the power of content distributors. TikTok have an algorithm which probably favored the other guy compared to the original creator. They can do that if they want to. It is their algorithm. No one can force them to change it to recognize the original creator. So these forces combined, and now someone else is sitting on 5 million views and is seen as a worthy influencer compared to the original creator. And this has been happening for a long time. And it's not just limited to TikTok. You see this with tech reviews. Before YouTube, or before YouTube became very popular, you had to read an article about a tech review. You had the cons, the pros, some pictures, and a conclusion, and some links where you can buy the products if you like them. But guess what's now a very popular style of video for tech reviews? Unboxing videos. They're now more popular. So you might be creating content and you have the experts, you have the people who can write articles, but someone else can take the same very review. Believe you me, they can read that review, love it, and then go and present it in a very interesting way on YouTube. And they get more attention than your content. You have to be aware. You have to be aware of this. This is a powerful force. In fact, interestingly, it happened to Michael Porter because he wrote an article about how competitive forces shape strategy. It was a long article in Harvard Business Review. But right now, if you look at Porter's 5 forces and Google search it, what's the most likely result you get? You get an image, a diagram. It's an alternative style, alternative format of content that is more popular. In fact, if you told me Porter's 5 forces, I remember the diagram. I don't remember really his article. In fact, I only read the article whilst doing research. But before that, I never actually knew there was an actual article behind the Porter's 5 forces. So do you see that this is a very powerful force? You are creating content and you're not aware that someone can change the style, just the style of presentation, and they get more attention than you. They can turn your 50,000 word article into an infographic. I mean, this is what Blinkist are doing. Think about it. There is an author out there who's spent a year, 2 or 3 years researching something. They write a book and it's 100,000 words. And Blinkist are coming and saying, we can summarize that book in 15 minutes and present it to the world. And they're a popular app. You have to be aware of these forces. So far I've covered 3 forces. The 4th force, power of content consumers. These are the people you're creating content for. They are savvy. They are spoiled. They are picky. And you know this. You absolutely know this. But you underestimate how much power they have because they hold the key to your content getting attention. They absolutely hold the key. And you just create content as if somehow they don't. They do. You put ads in front of your content and it annoys them, they'll be wondering, do you actually still want my attention? You put pop-ups, you just write content to self-promote, you just annoy them, they just want to watch a video on YouTube and you're putting your ad in front of them and trying to annoy them, they will ignore your ad. Is it any surprise that people hate ads? Is it any surprise? I mean, you have YouTube and Spotify telling their customers, we can remove these annoying ads if you pay us money, and there are people who are willing to pay to not have ads. Because ads are content, by the way. But why is your
ads not getting attention, the power of consumers. Maybe it's annoying. Maybe your ad is annoying. Do you ever think about that? Or do you just think, well, we've created an ad, it's very useful, you should all find it interesting? Consumers are savvy. You might be selling something, they might go get it for free on the internet. This happens to a lot of songs and films. You could spend billions of dollars on creating a film, and you release it online and you're surprised why it's not generating revenues. Because someone else decided to watch it for free. Because they know where to find it for free. This happens a lot with football. For a long time, I have to admit, I used to watch football for free. Because I was in university, I was young, and I couldn't afford subscriptions. But I managed to watch some of the most beautiful, exciting games of Liverpool. That was starving the broadcaster of revenues. Because we're savvy. And they seem to treat us as if we're not savvy, we're just done, we'll just pay subscriptions and that's it. Boxing matches, I've never had to pay for a subscription for a boxing match. I'm a big fan of Tyson Fury, and I've watched all his matches, and I've never paid a single penny. Because there are people out there who are savvy, who will send you the links, and you can watch boxing for free. In HD quality, as if you're there. It's one of those that everyone underestimates, and yet is very powerful. That could determine whether you get attention or not. But I'm gonna finish off with the most powerful force of all the 5 forces. The last and most powerful force, I believe, is the power of content creators, content distributors, and content platforms. I think I need to first define briefly in this context, in the context of the Simbas 5 forces. Then it'll make sense what I'm about to say after. So a content creator could be yourself, could be an influencer, someone who has an audience and they create content like PewDiePie, MKBHD, or could be an expert, someone who knows a subject or topic very well that they write content for it and it gets attention. Remember, the whole aim of creating content is to get attention. So there are content creators out there who create content that gets attention. So that's a content creator. A content distributor is someone who, for a fee or for free, has an audience already, but they can take your content and distribute it to their audience. And you will get attention that way. Out of all the forces that are very powerful, this one, I think it generally is very powerful. Because an example of a content distributor is Google search engine. So Google search engine will go through your content because they get 1 billion searches a day. They have an audience. They have people who use their search engine. And what they're saying is, we can take your content, especially links, we'll take your links and we'll present them when people search for content that we think you have. That's a content distributor because they're distributing content across the web. Same for Facebook. You can go on Facebook, set up a Facebook business page, and you can share the content that you've created on Facebook. And Facebook will then have an algorithm and a newsfeed that will distribute your content to who they think should be seeing it. Same thing for Instagram, same thing for Twitter, same thing for LinkedIn. So these are powerful content distributors. They allow you to create content, share it on their websites or apps or platforms, and they will distribute it for you to their audiences, to their active users. Then you have content platforms. So these are content publishing software companies like WordPress, like Wix, like Shopify. If you want to create content for your products and services that you're selling online, which is e-commerce, you will most likely go to and use Shopify. They have power because they can limit what you can do and they can charge you for the benefit of using their platform to create content that you can make money from. Same thing with WordPress. WordPress is free, but there are things you have to pay for, and there's a steep learning curve, I have to say, to get the most out of it as a content platform. So WordPress, Shopify, content platforms. Facebook, Google search, content distributors. Influencers, yourself and other companies and freelancers, content creators. So the power of a content creator comes in if they command attention with their content, but they're not willing to work with you, partner up with you, or create content for you. Let me say that again. If you don't have any expertise in-house and you go out there and think, let me go and speak to a content creator who has attention, who creates content that gets attention, they have every right in their power to say no. Or they can say yes, but at a very steep price. That could eat into your profits. That could eat into your attention, because you might create content, but there is a content creator out there who knows how to create content that engages people, and they will take away attention from your content. So they have power. They can bargain. They can eat into your profits. I can imagine how much MKBHD charges for him to talk about your product, or to review your product, or to partner up with you. So content creators who are experts, who are trusted, who have authority on certain subjects and topics, they are either very expensive, or they're not available, or if you try to compete with them when you create content, they would take a lion's share of the attention. Give them a chance. And actually, I was going to mention this even at the beginning when I said existing competition, that you have direct and indirect competition. Direct competition are companies operating in the same industry as you. Indirect are mostly influencers, individuals or organizations that create content for the same audience as you're targeting, but with different business motivations, different business goals than you. They could be just creating content for the fun of it, whereas you're trying to create content to survive as a business. Then you have content distributors. One word: algorithms. Algorithms determine the amount of attention your content will get. You want to know how powerful they are? Ask little things. 1 minute, you're getting 50 million plus visits to your content. So much attention. And you're recruiting people, you're trying to create more content, you're very popular. And then one algorithm update later, you're barely getting 4 million visits to your content. You think you get away with Google? No. You might be ranking number 1 on Google today, getting all the traffic because most of the traffic goes to the top 3 search results. You're getting free traffic that you're not paying for, which is what most SEO is focused on. Getting you to page number 1, getting you to the top 3, so you get traffic. And that's good, until Google makes an update and suddenly you're on page 10. The traffic is gone. That's the power of a content distributor. They have the algorithm. They have an audience who loves their service and product. And that audience is hungry for your content, but they have placed the algorithm between you and that audience. And that algorithm determines how much attention you get. In fact, the reason why most of you are not even getting any success whatsoever is because the algorithm doesn't like your content. Try go put content on LinkedIn and try put a link in that content and see what LinkedIn will do to your content. In fact, most algorithms are self-serving. They're not here for you. Facebook are never going to favor you if you're trying to get their audiences off Facebook. LinkedIn algorithm will not like you if you're trying to get their audiences off LinkedIn. That's why you notice if you upload a video to Facebook, it does well than you putting a link to a YouTube video. YouTube won't even allow you to put a link. They can allow you to put a link, but it doesn't go anywhere. Why? Because they have the power. They have the algorithm, they have the audience. This is a very powerful force that most of us are not aware of when we create content. That travel guide, that piece about personal finance, that case study, whatever you've written about your work is subject to an algorithm that will determine how much attention it gets. Oh, you've given up on trying to do it organically. You're trying to pay for an ad. Go on Facebook ads, or Google search, or YouTube ads. There's another algorithm waiting for you. Yes. On Google search, they have quality score. They have ways of determining which ad gets attention. There's still an algorithm. And they protect those algorithms. So if you're just creating content, whether ads or just natural organic content, and you think somehow, I don't know what's happening, why am I not being successful? There's an algorithm. That's a very powerful force because you don't even know how the algorithm works. There are people who are trying to guess. They actually say to you, oh, we think there are 200 ranking factors on Google. We don't know the algorithm, but this is what we think the algorithm wants. Same thing on YouTube. In fact, a lot of content creators, you know why they burn out? Because they become enslaved
to the algorithm, because they believe the YouTube algorithm needs content every single day. So what do? They have to produce content every single day. Someone else tells you, oh, the Instagram algorithm needs you to produce at least 3 types of content every single day. So what do companies do? They produce 3 types of content every single day. Not because they want to, but because we've been told this is what works for the algorithm. You get the same problem on Pinterest. You get the same problem on Facebook. In fact, these algorithms are now enslaving content creators. So you end up producing content for the sake of the algorithm and not because that's what you genuinely want to do. Because now you want the attention, you're desperate, and you know the algorithm stands between you and attention. So what do? You bow down and worship the algorithm. A very powerful force. Lastly, content platforms. So content platforms like your WordPress, like your Shopify, they could have power over you. If you don't have your own website and the content platform goes down, you're stuffed. If Shopify was to go down today, for whatever reason, and you rely on sales via Shopify, like Gymshark does, that day you would have no money coming in. Why? Because your content platform that you rely on to publish content is down. You have the same problem with WordPress. If there are plugins that have security problems and your site goes down because of a hack, there's nothing you can do. So there are forces that are working against your content and its ability to get attention. Either the site being down, either being hacked, or not having the capability to get your content noticed. You have this problem with Wix. You can do a lot more SEO on WordPress compared to Wix. They're working hard to address this problem, but it shows you that there is a force working against you if you have content on Wix. But content platforms, they play a big role in determining whether your content gets attention or not. So content creators, content distributors, content platforms, this is a very powerful force. Now, I suggest you use the notes in the handbook because I give detailed explanations. Already this lesson is more than 40 minutes. If I try to go into the details, you'll end up being 4 or 5 hours, which defeats the purpose. So I suggest you go to the notes. I've updated them and they have examples, explanations, diagrams, and if need be, templates and other places of resources that you need. But this is very important for you to understand. Let's just summarize once again. When you create content and you want to know what are the chances your content will get the attention you think it deserves, use the 5 forces to answer that question. And if the question is a no, go back into your customer's ikigai. Maybe there's something you're missing about understanding your customer or your target customer, which is your target audience that's going to give you attention. Maybe you haven't really delved deeper into what they really love and care for. Maybe you don't really understand what they really need. Maybe you haven't read the signals correctly about what they're paying for and what they're willing to pay for. Or maybe they're not as educated about your brand and about your industry and what you're doing. Because ultimately you want to make sure you produce content that gives you content market fit. It's well researched, you understand the marketplace very well because you've used the 5 forces and you know how to compete. You're trying to get content market fit so that you can get the attention you desire or need to be successful.